you may formulate an idea about what would be good for you, and then you take 10 steps towards that, and you find out that your formulation was a bit off, and so you have to reformulate your goal. So you're kind of going like this as you move towards the goal. But a huge part of the reason that people fail is because they don't ever set up the criteria for success.
Hey everybody, we're back for the second part of the interview with Ty here on the My First Amendment Right podcast. And Ty, we ended our first part of our chat kind of getting into how the community was when you first found yourself getting involved in it, and the real meat and potatoes here, as I'll say, of why I wanted to chat with you is in 2024 you and I find ourselves quite aligned now on our view of the community. And as I've seen you posting, it aligns with what I've been doing. And I have been taking it upon myself to distance myself from what I would call the movement of LGBT. I'm not ostracizing my friends that I've made through the years. I don't
Yeah.
hate gays all of a sudden. I don't hate bisexuals all of a sudden. I don't hate queer people. I don't hate trans people all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
But when you know, when you watch people that come from a marginalized stance or people that are bullied and aren't given the proper guidance on how to come back the other way, um, you find that those people usually are looking for any opportunity they can to become the bullies themselves.
Yeah, in a way. I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah, there's always like I think it's always like the pendulum. Like you push something one way, it's gonna come
That's
back. Like
exactly
it's
what I've been
always gonna
saying.
be. Yeah.
You know,
So
and like you said, when your first experience with the Pride Parade, my first time was World Pride in New York, and because of my career and the people that I worked with, I got to be in the parade itself.
gosh.
And I'll say that was like an overwhelming experience, just to be paraded through New York City, right?
Yeah,
As a younger man, you get carried away with that,
yeah, that sounds like that sounds exciting. Like
but I, like you, when I got involved in it, and I'm thinking pride. Okay, pride. That means that's something I need to be proud of, right?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, and again, I come from a very mixed background in how I view society and like my role in society, and I kind of get the need for decorum and the need for etiquette, uh, and the need to make something of yourself that people can respect.
Yeah.
And what I found in my first Pride Parade was, like you said, a lot of debauchery.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a little bit, it was like it was the main fucking theme.
Yeah.
And to me, and again, it wasn't like I blasted the community at that point, but I had some friends that I trusted to talk to. And, because I was on the buy side, so we're the underbelly of the community. We don't get propped up like the gays, the lesbians. Well, I mean, you forget about lesbians, right? At this point, like,
Yeah.
who talk like,
Gays are getting chopped off now too. Like we're not
oh,
even I mean actual gay people because now they just take the word gay and like now it's like these weird straight women have decided that they're gay now and they
but
are
like
gay.
you said, a pendulum. I would talk to them and I'd be like, I was like, you guys don't think that with these parades, you should maybe reel in the just blatant sexuality of it a little bit,
Yeah.
you
Like the
know?
overt displays. Yeah, like you don't need to be like having sex in the street. Like quite literally. And people like they're like, that doesn't happen. I'm like,
Does it
it
now?
it does.
It
It
does.
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 I don't
And
know how else to say this. Like
you
does. And I'm not gonna go post porn. Like it literally it does. Like,
like, if you did that
oh my
outside the parade,
God.
you'd be on a registry as an offender.
Exactly. And like the people that do it in the parade, Loki should be on a registry. So not even it's like just fucking crazy. So yeah, I'll like that's
You
my
know,
fact.
and it's like I try to tell them, like, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Mhm.
Because like it's the exact same thing I say. It's like, have you guys ever heard of a pendulum?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't. Obvious. I don't. I can't justify celebrating the most lowest tier level of who I am, which is my sexuality.
Yeah.
I want to see your doctors. I want to see your lawyers. I want to see the people that are helping make the community a better place for the people that are in the community. Because if you notice, the kind of current theme for LGBT is no one can keep a partner.
Yeah, it's really it's that's an insult that I get all the time. Like people will be like, your marriage is gonna fail. Oh, your husband hates on you. Oh, your husband's cheating on you somewhere. Da 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 da. They'll make some weird little like statement because they think it's gonna like they can't stand a relationship that's stable. They don't like it because it goes against their whole like we have to be all pansexual into each other and having like a sexual orgy all the time,
Hmm.
which people act like that's dramatic, but like I'm sorry that's fucking not dramatic. That is a very often happening. And so um I think that it's almost like naive. Well, it's just uninformed and misinformed. And I just think that it's one of those things that a lot of people get very upset about it when people say something like that because they get really defensive because they feel like they're supposed to defend that community at all costs at this point, but it's like there's things not to defend. Like some things are worth criticizing and worth letting go of to move forward. And that's like I'm glad you kind of said all that because I agree. Like that's where we are very aligned in that, where the debaucherous kind of overly the celebration of like let's get to the most like down low common denominator, whatever they can find to like just like it's just absolutely crazy that and it's almost like also that separating that it's also now also this like race to victimhood that they also have like interwoven in all this like sexual like kind of sexual physical well, all these different kind of like displays that they have going on, so it's like I don't know. They've interwoven a lot of different themes because I think right now it's all just Marxist bullshit. Like it's because that's if we're really gonna like dig it up and like peel back all the layers of the onion and
Yep.
get to the core of it.
Yep.
Like it's really all about the victim class versus the oppressors, and they will do anything to do somersaults and cartwheels to create an oppressor over
Hmm.
them in any way. They have to create one always. There's always going to be a new one. It's always something like that. And that's really one of the things that just drove me away from it because like the whole identifying as a victim all the time, I which I think goes quite in which I think is really interesting because it's an it's antithetical to pride, like being prideful in yourself, then you're being you're self-victimizing, which they hate that too, that they when someone says they're self-victimizing, I'm like, you are self-victimizing because you are affirmatively choosing to see things in the most dramatic and victimized way deliberately. It's because I'm also a gay person and I'm not seeing it that way. Like, and there's thousands and thousands of people. I've encountered so many thousands of people on this Twitter journey that I've like now become very outspoken and stuff. Like, it's like so many people agree. So it's like they act like, oh, you're the only person, you little pick me, go away, go back in the closet. Someone said that to me today, actually. And I was like, that's why it was like top of mind. And it's like they say that, and it's like, you know what? Like I know that there's thousands and thousands and thousands, probably millions of gay men that feel the same way, that feel like they can't say anything and they
Hmm.
can't do it. Bisexual men, all these people that
Yeah.
can't say your friends even. You were talking about your friends earlier. Like like your friends, even most of them probably even feel that way, but they just feel like they can't express it or even say anything. Because I have people tell me all the time that you say things I can't say. I'm like, you can say it too. You just won't, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
Not a lot of people. Uh, I've accepted God in my life recently, so the way I have to view things is everything happens for a reason. I'm so fortunate to have experienced cancellation on a major scale.
Mhm.
I'm still here.
Yeah, the world is here. We're moving forward. It's like it's great. Like it's I agree with you and congratulations on finding God. That's an amazing thing. Like I also had an amazing experience with my husband because he's Catholic, very Catholic with his family. So like they were really great and I've like gotten much more in touch with it. Because I always grew up spiritual and stuff like that, but it's like which I think is another thing that the community hates.
Oh yeah.
You can't
Oh,
do anything. They can't get
the
over
worst thing you could be right now is a cis And I hate that fucking word,
A
to be honest.
white
Just
cisgendered,
just a white man.
a white religious cisgendered man.
Yeah, just a white conservative Catholic man right now. You are
You are like
treated like the devil.
you are like a terrorist in their
Yeah,
mind, and
pretty much. You are a
you're
domestic
probably just like
terrorist.
the most nice, caring, giving person, and you have a great family,
If you are
probably.
white and you have a penis that doesn't go in another man's ass,
Yeah,
and you are religious, you are racist, you are sexist, you are transphobic, you are
like, 'cause I'm
anything that
also,
can
yeah,
destroy
you're
you.
self hating, all these different things. Yeah,
You know, and what's funny is, like I said, I fall in a weird middle, and it's funny to see the LGBT community now. They're still a minority in the country, and
I think they're trying so hard with all the added little things. They're getting closer every day. Like, like
when I grew up in the 90s, it really didn't matter who the fuck you were. We all kind of knew not to trust the government, and we also talked about mass conformity, and we all knew that both of those were bad. And
yeah.
so what you have now, the LGBT community has the movement itself has been hijacked by the government
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't see the numbers
100%.
in
Now
Congress.
it's like
I don't
that.
see I don't see the votes. So it's like, okay, you guys need to really slow your fucking roll and shut the fuck up because without straight people, how do you think you pass legislation for a gay marriage?
Yeah, thank you. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God.
We don't have the fucking
The
numbers.
funniest, like, thank you. I feel so, I've said that so many fucking times. Like, I don't, like, thank you for saying that. Like,
Like we're canceling Pride Month. We're doing Straight Appreciation Month because without straight people, it's still in the fucking dark ages.
I mean, literally, none
Because
of you
most
good
people are
people would
good,
exist without a straight person. I love that meme when people are like, "You think you're straight parents?" Like when
right?
they like you.
Right. And, and don't get them involved in the LGBT. You might have been aborted.
Exactly. Like I just like I no, but it's like they don't think about it. It's like they
It's
can't.
too
And if
real
they
for
think
them.
about it, they get angry. It's like stages of denial.
Yep. So we were chatting earlier, and we were getting into it before. I just wanted to make sure we kind of wrapped up here on the beginning of your journey. You were starting to get into when you started noticing too much, and you started to be like, yeah, no.
Yeah. I It was kind of also in line with I got into a new relationship with a guy that was more conservative, not my husband, not my current husband. But probably my most other like meaningful relationship that kind of like forged kind of like gave me confidence in like being like you don't have to always conform. Like you talk about the conformity thing. You don't always have to conform, you don't always have to agree, and you don't always have to go along to get along because it's not always worth it. So in a way that's like the takeaway that I have from that relationship. He was very conservative, and almost like overly conservative in a way that I personally would think would be like overly compensating for something, but that's fine. And that's his own journey and that's his own process. But there were great things that he got me to like snap out in a way where it's like, because you don't always have to agree or you don't always have to pretend to agree just because you want to like maintain a friendship or to like make someone like not hate you. Like if they're going to hate you for being truthful, then that's not your friend. Like you're not going to be friends. That's not your friends. Don't do that
You
to
don't
yourself.
need to be friends with everybody.
And
You
yeah,
shouldn't
exactly.
be friends with everybody.
No, oh yeah. And that's one of, it took me a long time to learn that. Like I wasn't talking, I'm literally like 21 years old at this point, maybe, or maybe, yeah, at least. And that's still the life lesson that I'm coming to, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so that was part of it where it's also all these things are kind of put together where like I kind of was getting more confident and feeling like I don't actually have to like agree with everyone to be friends, which was part of my issue. I think that set me back was I moved from Seattle, went to Florida State. I didn't have any friends here. So I almost felt like I always had to like be like always agreeing with people and always being like I'm super like nice and like everyone's gonna be like, you know what I mean, to like have friends because everyone's very cliquey at FSU because
Mm.
it's like, everyone from Florida just like they all know each other from high school and they're all just like
Right.
friends. It's
Right.
all
Yeah.
just
'Cause
like
Floridians
it's
like
so
to stay
hard
in
to
Florida.
break into those groups when they're like, I've known her since I was in seventh grade. And I was like, fuck you. And it's like, and I'm going back to my dorm. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? That bullshit. And so yeah, that was hard, but I got over that at like when I was like 21, I kind of like decided like I kind of got a good group of friends that I realized like that weren't gonna give a fuck if I had opinions. And the ones that fell away because they weren't really gonna be my friends. And they weren't really my friend. They were expecting me to be their yes person, or they wanted me to agree with whatever they said. And then like if they weren't gonna be agreed with, then that's a problem. And that's like, you know what, if that's your beef, then go into wherever you're going
Yep.
and go on your journey. And like I'm also really good about that. I don't mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I moved around as a kid a lot that like I'm very like if you're like if we're not gonna talk again, bye. Like it's like one of those things because that happened to me so many times when I was a kid. Like you would move, come home, and guess what? We're moving. And so like then we're moving and like bye friends.
Yeah,
Like it's like one of those things like
I
and I was
understand
always
that.
perpetually maybe that also made it hard for me to be like I was always perpetually in this cycle of like I always had to make sure people liked me. So I was always trying to be like never controversial with my opinion or making people uncomfortable. So once I started being outspoken is when I started being like, well, not outspoken, like outwardly on public, like on Twitter and stuff, more like outspoken in my friendships or like in my interpersonal relationships where I wasn't going to be like a little doormat to everyone's fucking opinion anymore.
Mm,
And which is kind of its own way, like everybody needs to come to that point in their life. I think personally, every single person needs to realize that they don't have to literally agree with everything someone says but or what they think the group is saying. Like you don't have to. Like conformity is a fucking mind fuck. It's literally like communism is built on that shit.
yes,
it's like I don't
sir.
know how else to put it. Like it's so un-American when you think about conformity and stuff like that. If you really think about like what it really means and where it really goes on a social level,
Mm-hmm.
mind fuck. And so, like, when you think about it in the gay terms, I didn't want to be conforming with this whole kind of movement of people that I thought were kind of like just being sheep and like kind of mass affirming each other, especially when it's starting to get the trans stuff going, because this is also kind of coincided with like the beginning of like the weird little, they stopped calling it gay pride and started like calling it like LGBT pride or whatever and which was like a really specific thing that they started to do like when I was in college and it took me a minute to start realizing it but and it also happened when I took a class. This is all like coming back to me. I took a class at FSU and I'm sure that they don't teach this there anymore but they were at some point I can't remember what the fucking class was about either but at some point because it was in sociology and I was in one of my sociology classes because that's one of the degrees I had 2 degrees from FSU for my undergrad it was and sociology was one of them and so
Okay.
that was a mind fuck, by the way. You realize how fucking crazy and like insane these like peer-reviewed studies are and what they actually are talking about and the whole peer review process. That was a whole awakening for me too. Giant red pill. If not black pill, honestly. But like it's one of those things. It's like um and so I realized I was in this class and I was doing this research project, and part of it had to do with like the transgender movement. It's crazy they were talking about this. It was a
It's
fucking
a rabbit hole to go down.
it's fucking crazy. And they talked about how in the 90s like how transgender the movement became more mainstream and gained steam. I don't know what the fuck that we were studying. I can't remember where this came up, and I wish I knew where this study was because I would post this shit everywhere. Anyway, because I would literally never stop. I would never stop talking about this if I had the actual fucking study handy. And if anyone knows, if they're listening and you know what I'm talking about, and if you're in research or you're in academia or sociology and you know what I'm talking about, you know the study, please send it to me, send it to Jackson, please get it to one of us. Anyway, so this study was talking about how in the 90s, the transgender movement, well, it wasn't called transgender, it's transsexuals, they did this thing where they didn't have enough support. And I feel like a lot of people have talked about this now subsequently, but there was a literal study that talked about this, or it was like a research journal paper or something like this. I don't think it was a study, it was a research paper. And they said how the transgender or transsexual liberation, whatever they wanted to call it, I can't remember what they called it. It was some old school terminology that they used because it was the 90s. Um,
Good old
identified the gay rights movement had gotten a lot of steam and it had a lot of support behind it, and garnered a lot of money and advocacy and all that stuff from the from the AIDS crisis and all that stuff in the 80s and stuff. That they identified that was a springboard to acceptance, because there are so many more gay people
Yep.
than there are trans people.
Yep.
And that the gay acceptance was going to be like a foregone conclusion. Even in the 90s, people had already identified this. Like, these parasitic fucking people had already identified that this was going to be a foregone conclusion, and that they needed to attach or like associate their struggle with the same plight at the same time, because there was all this money behind it.
Right.
So it was it's literally parasitic. And so what I realized when I was reading that is I realized that it's a fucking parasitic relationship. I can't believe, like, and I realized what was going on and what had happened, and it was almost this crazy realization that, like, what had happened, and it's like it's too late. Like, they've taken it already. 90s was when I was fucking born. Like, I was like realizing, I was like, this was happening when I was born, and I was in college when I was realizing this. I was like 20 freaking 2 years later. Are you freaking kidding me? Or 21 years later? And I was like, how do I stop this shit? And you know what I mean? So I realized that. And so that was crazy. And you can't even talk about that because that's even a controversial thing back then. So I realized I was reading something that was like interesting. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you have to
Yep.
just like have a poker face about it, because in class you can't just like be bringing this up and being like, I'm gay. This is crazy. I hate this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I can't say that. And so I remember
I mean,
even
we used to use the word. I mean, my class, like when we said gay, we didn't usually mean gay. We just meant
stupid
yeah, yeah, stupid. It's just like it's something we don't want to do because we
or
find
dumb.
it,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like,
dumb.
that's fucking gay.
And
Like, I used to say that all the fucking time, dude.
they,
Like, I
we you know, and
it
if,
was
and if
like,
if men acted in a way that was unmanly, sometimes you got the word faggot thrown around or stuff
the
like that.
FAG, yeah, you get
But
that, yeah.
but rarely you would ever see people go after someone that they knew was gay in such a
Exactly. Yes.
harsh and brutal manner.
Hardly ever. No, it was not, and they would never really be over them being like gay itself either. That was also
Exactly.
another thing where
South Park
they
had a
didn't really
wonderful
speak
episode on
that
that.
much. Yeah. And I'm not discounting, I know it does happen sometimes.
Oh
Like,
yeah, but
also,
South Park.
all you do is like diminish it. And I'm like,
Do you
stop.
ever watch South Park?
What?
Do you ever watch South Park?
Dude, I love that show.
They had a wonderful episode where they redefined the word fag. You remember that?
No, but I'm gonna go look it up and rewatch it tonight.
So they said so the new definition of the word fag is guys who like to ride their motorcycles loud.
Perfect.
And disturb everyone's peace riding their revving their ram. Hey, what's up, fag? Look at those fag.
Perfect.
They go to Congress. This is hate speech. Blah 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 blah.
Yep.
I love Trey Stone and Matt Parker. They're
They
American.
did a great job. I love them. I love that show. Um, ugh. Yeah,
So
it's one of those things, like how everything changed when I realized that, when I was going through I get frustrated even thinking about it. Like, because it's one of those things that you realize that it's like something that happened a while ago, and it's like, wow, well, we're already freaking way too late, and then they accelerated it like out of like crazy. After 2015, when gay marriage got passed, everything switched immediately. Like, all of the infrastructure that had been built out, because I mean, it was obviously they had to figure out what to do with all this money, this machinery, all this like advocacy campaigning, and all these people that they've got entrenched now for like 20 years. Like, what's the next mission?
yeah, exactly. And I felt at one point, right about the time when we passed gay marriage, it was like, well, we won.
Yeah. No, I
It's
mean,
like,
I felt like great, great. Like, I relaxed. It was one of those things, like, it's chill. Like, I mean, and then yes, I exactly, like, it was like a sense of relaxed. It was in 2015, right?
something like that. Yeah. It was like, was it Obama? Did Obama pass
It was
it?
under Obama. It was under Obama that it happened, but it was the Supreme Court that did it.
Right, exactly.
Um,
It wasn't Obama. It was the Supreme Court.
Obama tried to stop it, actually. Fun fact. Obama tried to stop. I will say this. Obama tried to stop gay marriage being passed, just so everyone knows. He
So did
did.
Joe Biden back in the day.
He did too, yes. But
Joe
Obama
Biden was
literally
racist as
tried to
fuck his
stop it
whole
when
career.
Obergefell was happening. He tried to freaking
So
stop
did
it.
Hillary.
Yes, he tried to stop it. So,
So
like,
did
keep
Bush Jr. Yeah,
that straight. Literally. So it's like I scream that. I keep screaming that from the mountaintops. I will always, anytime I have the chance to do it, I will say it. So yeah, no, that was crazy when in 2015 the machinery switched over to the transgender, all of it. Like it became immediate, like
and all
overnight.
these studies came out.
Yep.
Studies.
Yep.
And that's
Like
that's another thing.
most have been debunked now, and like they've all been like ruined, and it like started all this bullshit, and it's like most of them have been like discredited and shown to be completely fraudulent and like messed up. And so I like obviously not all of them, but like I'm gonna say like most have been discredited. And like to have started this whole movement based on all that stuff, which is just like asinine when like a lot of the justification were those studies, and then it's like not real. It's like, but then everybody is like, it's so real. I'm gonna cut up my whole body.
And what on that note, do you this is something that I noticed, and like I told you earlier, my childhood at one point, I was institutionalized because of some shit. But I don't know what year it was that we kind of got rid of mental asylums in this country. Do you feel that they are purposely pushing anybody with any mental illness at all into the LGBT community?
Yes. Well, and I don't even necessarily think it's like some people are doing it purposefully, but I don't think most people are just going along with like what they think or they're supposed to be doing, which I think is the real tragedy in all of
Do
this.
you
Is a
feel like
lot
there's
of
a
mass delusion.
nefarious, like from Big Brother, there's something kind
Well,
of
Big Brother, I think a
towards it?
lot of times when you think about this transgender stuff, if you think about who stands to benefit the most, it's the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry when they're trying to like medicalize all these people. So I think they identified a like a vulnerable population and all these people that have mental illnesses. Because I
Mhm.
think the real like nexus between a lot of this is like these vulnerable people that I mean, it's really sad if you really think about it. It genuinely is. They are genuinely being preyed upon, but they
Yeah.
like for their own, for all intents and purposes, they cannot get out of their own way when people are trying to help them, and they can't. A lot of them still just can't accept because to them this was it's two people, two sides are winning. The mentally ill people are winning because it's an out, so that they don't have to feel like they're mentally ill because they're affirmed into some identity that shows like truly, look, I'm not actually some psychopathic person that needs help or whatever pathological issue. Like, no, I just have 5 different personalities and it's normal. Haha. And it's
That
like great.
that
And I'm
that right
also on
there.
every single medication and I'm all these different things and I'm gonna pump my body through with all these different hormones and things. And it's like, who's making all this money off of this? Like, it's crazy. And yeah, that whole thing where then you're not even allowed to question it either, because otherwise you're a bigot
Mhm.
or you're just like hateful and you
It
don't want them
depends on
to
what
be
state you're in.
you. Yeah.
Depending on what state you're in, you say the wrong thing to someone, and now literally it's a crime.
I think it's actually even down to what town you're in, really, because even in Florida, sometimes you got some crazies lurking around. Like they're around. They exist. You said you're in like what is it, like Central Florida?
Yeah, yeah, I'm up in
Yeah.
Orlando.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, then you know, I would say Orlando's got most of the crazies up there. Like I would say in our state, Orlando is central because even though I'm in South
That's
Florida
why
and stuff,
I make
like,
sure everybody knows where I
yeah,
stand
Orlando's
out in
fucking
public.
crazy. Like they lurk around up there.
You know,
They're in
what
there.
what would you say? Because like I said, we both kind of share this current view where I personally I don't think the LGBT community serves even the community anymore.
No, no, not at all. No.
Um, like you said, I from my perspective, I think half of the illogical ideology is coming from the fact that people who do need help are getting lumped into the community under all these different pseudo
Like the
sexual
designation.
identities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that way, because look, like we said earlier and talked about earlier, half the reason for the community is, you know, you grow up wanting to feel a part of something.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We talked about this in the last episode a little bit. Like when you're first coming out, you want to
Yeah.
feel surrounded by like this, you want to say call it a community, you want to call it like
An
kind of
umbrella of
an
safety.
envelope of support, like whatever you want to feel like or call it. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, we touched on it before too. Yeah.
And so, and then, like I said earlier, what you have here is these people that have felt victimized their whole lives. All suddenly, they're getting kind of armed by legislation and government,
Yes, and
and they're
emboldened.
feeling
Yes.
emboldened to push these untested ideologies, these unsafe ideologies, and literally, it is mental illness running amok, and it
Yeah.
is a very, very minority speaking with audacity to the majority
Yep.
in such a way that I can remember from the 90s. Eventually, you will get yourself punched in the mouth.
No, it's like dictatorial. Like it's like quite in yeah, exactly. They it's like there's no room for even any wiggle or any like debate or even like it's like you accept what they're dictating. Like it's like they're ramming their boot down your mouth and you have to literally just accept it. And the boot is the most insane psychopathic thing you've ever experienced or
Not
seen
even a
in
boot
life.
anymore. It's just a dildo on a strap on.
That's actually a better analogy. It's
Fucking
actually
that
like a
the
giant
alien
dragon.
company,
Like
Bad Dragon. It's a Bad Dragon dildo that are trying to
yeah.
shove down your esophagus that doesn't
But
fit.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
when was the last time you saw somebody from the LGBT community have a debate with someone not from the community without letting their emotions pour into the conversation?
Never. I've never seen it, never. No, it always ends up devolving into like some kind of an emotional kind of ploy about how now they're being like victimized or they're not being their truth isn't being taken seriously or whatever they will come up with something. They always come up with some weird little narrative in the end and it's always emotionally driven because they don't want to like accept or even think about their own well I think it's all like a lesson in cognitive dissonance like they don't really want to accept like that their actions are not that in line with like what the reality of the world thinks is appropriate. Like they can't accept it. Like
Yep.
and so
How do you feel? You know, and this is like gonna be the last part here. How do you feel about the community now being pushed into elementary schools and in front of kids now? And it's almost, you can almost see Disney getting into it a little bit, and um, we literally have in some states where parents can lose their kids if they refuse to let their kids choose their own gender before they even know what the fuck gender is.
it's like that kind of stuff to me is like what radicalized me, if I'm gonna even call it
Yeah,
radicalization. Because
no,
I
I'm
think
right
that's
there
pretty
with you.
fucking common sense, like personally. But like if you're gonna call it what it is, like radicalized me, it's like when they started putting this shit into like the schools with kids, where then like the teacher can then arbitrarily go behind the parent's back and like basically like remove the kid from the parents almost like and it's like they get then enlist a whole host of bureaucrats basically it's a bunch of people that don't actually have any they probably none of them have even kids of their own like it's honestly just horrifying when like that's the reality where these people can just make a snap judgment and take your kids because of something that the kid doesn't understand that they were probably told about by an adult or some external influence because they don't know what these things are. They don't know, like, no kid knows that they're not the right gender. Like, they don't know that. Like,
That
it goes back to the thing where I was like, I think I was like 9 years old when my mom even told me like that my uncle was gay, which like then was like, what does gay mean? Like, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, it's just like one of those things where like kids don't know what those things are unless like you literally tell them. Like, you like, so that's always where I'll go back to like, it's the adults in the room that you got to keep your good eye on. Like, and it's like, what also goes, as I was molested when I was a kid too. We didn't even talk about that. So it's like, I have a heightened situationally like I don't want to call it like a trauma when it comes to like response when it comes to it, but like I get like fucking crazy when it like, makes my eyes when it comes to like how kids are going to be like victimized by these things because it's so like they're so vulnerable. Like they don't understand what's going on, what the problem is, what is bad, what is not bad, or what is like actually evil. Like they don't understand, and especially when it's wrapped in this way that is like they make it seem all nice with all rainbows and all these little
Yeah.
euphemisms and every little thing. And it's like you can be a furry little dog if you want. And it's like, no, the fuck you can't.
No,
Like,
yeah. And like that's something we let kids like maybe in a non-sexual way pretend to do when they're like 3, 4, but
yeah,
eventually
like little
we
role
kind
playing.
of got to come
That's
back to reality here because if I don't teach you little fucker to become an actual good thinking
functional
member,
adult.
yeah, a
Yeah,
functional adult. Like I gotta connect you with reality.
wild. Yeah, it's like there's an adulthood that will be coming, and there is a functionality that you're gonna need to survive. But I mean, the government doesn't want that, remember, because I think there's a whole bunch of factions in the government that like really just wants everyone to be dependent. So
Mhm.
the idea for them also is just great because then they don't have people that are functional really. So then everyone's just dependent. Um,
How do you feel about gender affirming care for people under 18?
oh, I think it's really bad. I think that I think people can do whatever they want when you're an adult because I think that's just up to you. My personal opinion about it is like let your freak flag fly in private to yourself, like, and pay for it yourself. Don't ever put it on tax dollars. And like, sure, cut off your whatever you want to cut off, and that's that. But don't let children do it because they don't understand the real ramifications. Don't put them on medications that like are going to stunt their development, that are going to ruin their lives down the line when they like can't have children,
It's
when they are
irreversible.
developmentally ruined, all that kind of stuff because it's a problem. They can't do that. Like, well,
Would
they're
you
doing it, but like they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I even was posting earlier that I think like the medical licenses, like the medical boards are actually really like negligent here now, and especially from a legal perspective, like they're negligent here because they're allowing this harm to continue and they have the oversight of these licenses of these physicians that are doing this. So it's the same because I think about it like from a legal perspective, like everything goes back to the bar. So like if you're like in violation, if you're not holding up your oath, if you're not doing what you need to do properly, you will literally get your fucking license taken away from you. And that should be happening to these physicians because they are doing major harm. And that's a big problem. And I get mad, dude. Like I'm gonna have to work out extra hard after this because I'll be thinking about
So,
it.
I'm someone who didn't even smoke pot until I was about 23, and one of the things that I heard about, one of the reasons why you shouldn't even smoke pot until you're about 23, 24, 25 is because the human brain is not even fully developed until then. Um,
Yep. Alcohol too. That's why
yeah,
one of
I'm personally in favor of not allowing anyone to be given taxpayer dollars to medically go either which way until they reach, let's say, 25.
Oh, I don't think tax dollars should ever be allowed to be given any for it ever under any circumstances. I personally
I'm
think
right there
because
with you.
personally when you start doing that kind of stuff, like you can get mental health care and you can actually you don't have to literally like pay and have all these procedures done. Like I think that especially with like the tax dollars part of it is like actually something I'm a hard liner on.
Yeah,
Like it's so hard for me to justify why the collective needs to pay for your to me it's a cosmetic surgery to affirm something you have going on.
right.
Like that's what that is. It's an elective surgery. Like
Would you say? Would you
you don't
say?
need it to survive. That's what I mean. You don't need it to survive. That's why is my am I paying for that? That's how I feel.
I fully agree with you on that. Um, now, we both have a fair amount of experience with the community, and in my former career, I was one of the first models to really openly outwardly work with the trans community.
Mhm.
Um, and from my observation, I would have to say that
Did you do it with an FTM?
no, actually, I never, the only one I knew about at the time was Buck.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I was gonna say,
honestly, I respect Buck. I respect the
yeah, he's
hell
on
out of
I've
Buck.
seen him on Twitter a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, because even he if he got on this podcast right now, he would agree with everything we've been saying.
Oh, of course. Yeah, 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 exactly. And I have a rule when it comes to the transgender people. Like, and me and my husband have talked about this at length because like how to like draw the line about like when we'll like allow them to like when I'll like say their pronoun or whatever that they want.
Mhm.
It's like if you're genuinely passing, like if you've actually obviously gone, like I think of also like Blair White and stuff. Have you
Right.
seen like her
No, no,
stuff?
no, no.
Well, like you can look up
Yeah, yeah.
her Blair White. She also to me, it's like I literally
But
thought that Blair White was a girl for a while, and then I was like, someone told me that Blair White
case in
wasn't.
point, what you're saying right now is what is where I'm at. You know, it's like
Exactly. Like if you're fully there, if you've literally gone all the fucking way, and I can't fucking tell. And I mean, like, I'm not even gonna be that cruel because I have a discerning eye, I think. Like, if like I would say the average person would probably not be able to tell. I'll give it to you.
and
I'll give it.
I think even though even the majority of us that do have hard opinions on because mental illness is something that nobody asked for.
Exactly.
um I tell people, I was like, you really shouldn't be celebrating trans people, and it's not because they don't deserve respect, but I can't tell you a single trans person, either with their head on their shoulders or not with their head on their shoulders, that asked to be born trans.
No, I mean,
like
it's the
re-
same way
like
that I think gay people are too, in that way too. No one asks to be born this way or whatever. It's just like you have to do what you can. And in that way, I think gay people and trans people can have a discussion and understand that as a commonality that like it's not something you ever ask for. And it's not to say that being gay is a mental illness in the way that I think being transgender is. It's just something that like societally, it's a deviation from the norm
Right.
that then you have to overcome and deal with as a functional adult in your life.
And it is
And
gender dysphoria.
exactly, exactly, yes, because
And
gay people are not doing that. We're not like taking off our freaking genitals, changing
exactly,
them.
it's like,
It's a whole different situation happening. It's a whole different thing.
you
And to
still are
say it
you.
really pisses me off too. I can't stand the teaming when they say, "Oh, we're all doing the same thing." The only thing I would give you is that no one asks for to be gay, and no one asks to be trans. That's
Like I said, being gay, you can still be you and be gay, but
exactly. It's not about not being you. Exactly.
the whole
Accept it.
trans
You can
thing,
still accept yourself. Transgenderism is like the
it,
antithesis of accepting
it's
yourself.
hell, it's hell on earth.
Exactly.
That
That's
you
exactly
know,
it, and I think that
I-
what you were saying when it comes to, like, we shouldn't be celebrating them. I think that, like, in a way, we shouldn't be celebrating them the way we do. If they
right?
wanna be celebrated, they can be
They deserve
celebrated, but
peace,
it has to be if they want visibility, like, they need to be celebrated and given visibility in the correct context.
right?
Like,
Become a
and
doctor,
it's
like
not gonna exactly, it's not all gonna be so perfectly happy and affirming to your ego, where you're gonna be, like, wanting everyone to say that you're not mentally ill. Like, but you're gonna get people are gonna be coming from a place of pity, really, like, if you really think about it, because they feel sorry for you because it is something that no one really wishes on somebody. I don't wish that on anybody.
yes,
Like, I'm not, like, hoping that people turn out to be trans. I genuinely feel sorry for them when that happens, because I genuinely know that that is something that is so difficult and horrifyingly, like, it's so hard to overcome and accept and deal with in society, and then especially if you're gonna go all the way with it, where you're gonna actually transition, like, oh my God, bless your heart. And I mean that with the utmost respect because like I mean, like I can't even say it another way because it's like
I'm not. Yeah, exactly.
so
I'm
many
not here
people
to
don't get a
banish
good
my
result.
trans
So
friends.
many people so there's like it's so many people don't get a good result because I mean for every Blair White, there's like 100 or maybe like 500 people that like literally will never ever achieve any sense of satisfaction with anything they do. And that's
Real
a
quick,
tragedy.
so Ty, before we get off here, I'd like to give you a chance to shout out your social medias, anything you want to talk about you got going on for yourself here, all yours.
Okay. Okay, so I don't really have much going on in like a bunch of social medias. I really just focus for the most part social media wise on X,
Mhm.
formerly Twitter.
And what is
Uh,
your handle on there?
so my handle is I'm gonna get it right because I almost always get it backwards because my screen name is backwards from my handle. So my handle is at Tough Talk Ty, but the name is Ty's Tough Talk. So type in either one, I think I'll appear.
Absolutely. And I'll list that
Uh,
anybody for everybody here as well to see that when the podcast release. Ty, I want to thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your
It's been
time
great
and your
chatting.
honesty and your openness. This has been the My First Amendment podcast. I'm Christopher Ash. We'll see you soon.
Been great exercising the amendment.
Yes.